All right, welcome back, Bumble Jeepers. It's the day after the tool vlog. As you can see, I decided that today I'm going to try and get the roof of the Bumble Jeep painted. It's the one panel or the one area that I can paint without taking the vehicle out of service. Without taking the vehicle out of service. There you go. It's that simple. So I just finished masking it off, and this will be when I'm done. I've got to scuff it now. So when I'm done scuffing it, and I wanted to, an explanation for what's going on here at the windshield. As I said many times, I'm AR, and for those of you who don't know what AR is, it's anal retentive. It means it's kind of like, for me, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. I want paint. The easiest way to put this is I don't want anybody to know that this was black when I'm done with it. So I want to paint under everything. That's why I'm gonna remove the doors, strip the doors down. I'd like to get new weather stripping or weather seal kits for them. And you can see this, that's pretty bad. As I said earlier, I'm gonna pull these come out fairly easy. And while I have them out, I'm either gonna tint them or replace them with aluminum. And then I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with the aluminum, whether I'm gonna paint it yellow or if I'm gonna paint it black. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with it yet. Anyhow, so today, the one thing that kind of aggravated me, these top hinges, I wanted to pull them off and flip them back so I could get paint under them. And the only way that I can pull these off, this is a stud going in this way and the nuts on the inside. And I'll show you, I've already had the headliner out of this and back in. I refinished the headliner in this. This was ugly as sin when I got it. The material was all off of it. All that was left was the black foam backing. This, like I said, the original color on this Jeep is that ugly gray blue, which I don't like. I like the tan better. So I've done as complete a color change as I can at this point. Pro tip, the vinyl and fabric dye that you use for this, and it's I think I got Duplicolor, works amazing on the plastic. It did, yeah, I get sidetracked easy, I know. I'll get back to the hinge thing. It did okay on the carpets. Inserts on the doors, not great, but not horrible. So anyhow, yeah, the studs for this hinge are up inside, and I'd have to drop this piece out and drop and I don't want to do that. Long story short, I don't want to do that, so I tape them off. And I'm not an amateur at taping. I've painted many cars, many cars over my years working in the industry, so it's not a big deal. I just don't like doing it. I'd rather get paint everywhere. So anyhow, I am not going to film me sanding and prepping this. When I'm done sanding and blowing it all off and wiping it down, wax and grease, I have that. It's going in the paint booth. I had to move this project out of the way to make enough room. It's going to be a tight squeeze in there, but anyhow, I'm going to get it painted. I'm using Rust-Oleum with Valspar enamel hardener. And I will be I use a flat white Rust-Oleum for the primer base, and then go just a yellow, safety yellow in a quart cans for the color. And the reason I put the flat white primer on this is black doesn't cover for beans. No, yeah, I'm getting dyslexic. Yellow doesn't cover over black for beans. So you got to put something closer, which is white, and it covers This particular yellow enamel that I'm using, and it's an oil-based enamel. It's not an automotive enamel. The yellow covers amazing over the white. 2 coats looks good. 3 coats looks even better. So anyhow, I use the hardener in the white and the yellow, and it dries really nice. This is what I painted the hood with here. And this piece, this is the original color. I don't know if you can see the color shift or the color change. This was aerosol cans. This was aerosol cans. The lift gate in the back was done with aerosol cans. And it was getting expensive, and then I just decided to switch over. I bought a $15 Harbor Freight gun, and that's what I've been painting with, and it does a good job once you get it set up. You know, long term, is that a work gun? It makes a good primer gun at the end. But for what I'm doing here, I'm doing 1 paint job with it. I keep it clean, keep it packed away so it stays clean. And for doing this, it's going to be perfectly fine. So anyhow, I did miss, for those of you who watch my last 2 reviews, or the last 2 videos, part 1 and part 2 of the toolbox tour and cobalt tool review, I left something out, and I want to cover that quick. Oops, wrong one. Okay, yeah, and I already got a criticism on my camera work. It's a phone. So, gonna go over here, set this up. I started to tell you why I bought the compact 1/2-inch driver, impact driver, cordless, instead of the 3/8 cordless. Number one, this was on sale for $79, and it was the bare tool. And as I said before, I have plenty of batteries. Batteries for these things are cheap. The 4 amp hour battery is $50. That's, you know, one of the reasons I stated earlier that the reason I went with the Cobalt was the battery platform was cheap, inexpensive. They're good batteries. They last. I never had one not make it out of warranty. It's 3-year replacement warranty on the batteries. So back to the reason I picked the 1/2-inch over the 3/8. The 1/2-inch impact is the exact same size as this, okay, with the exception of the nub. The difference is the 3/8 impact has 150 pound-feet of torque. This has 200 pound-feet of torque. I have 3/8 or 1/2-inch to 3/8 adapters, which adds that much length to the gun. You know, 3/8 a 1/2-inch length to the tool when you're trying to get in someplace. And it's a small penalty to pay for an extra 50 pound-feet of torque. I can also, with this, with confidence, take my wheels off and on with this, and I have, and I think I actually showed that in one video. So great tool, great price. Why pay $99 for 3/8 and 150 pound-feet of torque when you can get 1/2-inch for $79 and 200 pound-feet of torque in your tool? You want your, you know, better your tool, the easier your job. So, all right, I'm going to pause this for now. I'm going to get scuffing, and then when I'm all done scuffing and blowing and wiping, and I'll have it pulled in there, then I'll come back. Just, you know, here's another pro tip. Why did I put the tape on ahead of time? When I'm all done prepping the roof for paint, that was nice. When I'm all done prepping the roof for paint, I will cover this with plastic. We have a big roll of it over there. I'll cut the roof out and tape the edges, and the whole vehicle will be covered very easily. The tape edges will already be on here, and I'll be ready to paint very quickly after I'm done prepping. So, all right, be back in a flash. You won't miss me at all. Oh, there we go. Okay, so again, talking at the back side of my phone. Getting ready. I got the plastic on. I got to trim it out and tape the edges, and I'll be ready to put the primer on this. I will show you the roof before I put the primer on. Couple of things. When you're doing something like this, now this is a Rust-Oleum paint job. It's not going to SEMA. It's my everyday driver. I would just like it to be all one color. And there's some panels on here that are not the same color as the other panels. And that's because the first panels I painted on this were aerosol, and the second set of panels I painted on this were out of a quart can with a spray gun. So anyhow, I'm going to turn the camera around. Here, yeah. Okay, so I got it covered with plastic. And the plastic comes in a big roll. If you don't have access to somebody in a body shop that can get you a roll or a length even, I'm blessed I have this really nice facility here that I can use at my discretion. Got a nice spray booth here. It's not a positive pressure downdraft or anything like that, but it is a very nice spray booth. All things considered, it's does great for Rust-Oleum paint job that I'm doing. You saw that earlier before I pulled my Jeep in the spray booth. That's going to get a really nice paint job. It's going to be an automotive base coat, clear coat paint job. You can see pulled everything off of that thing, pulled the glass out of the doors, weather stripping out of it, so the jams are going to get done. Did all the body work on it. To be fair, this car was not bad when it came in. The paint was just tired. The guy wanted the paint freshened up, and the guy that's doing the paint work on it is going a little cuckoo. But it's because it's going to have his name associated with the paint job, so he's a perfectionist, and there's nothing wrong with that. This is a classic. It's a little older than my Jeep. My Jeep's 25 years old. That I don't know what the age is on it. But anyhow, when you're doing these like this, you're just going to cut out the plastic for the panel that you're going to paint. Cover the whole car with one continuous sheet of plastic, and then you cut it out. I'm going to try and do this, a little bit of this on camera, just so you get an idea. You want to use a brand new utility blade, never been used. Don't cheap out. I mean, these things are, I got 2 packs of 100 or 2 packs of 50 over at Lowe's for, let's put it there, excuse me, at Lowe's for like $7-8 for 100 blades. So they're not that expensive that you have to use them until you can't use them anymore. So anyhow, you get up here, start cutting. Well, don't even have it in frame. There we go. You start cutting, and I can't seem to keep my hand in frame. And you just cut, and then you pull this down. And then I'm not going to be able to tape this and hold the camera, but you take your piece of masking tape and you tape over the tape that's underneath. And on this edge, when you're all done, this piece of plastic this will just peel away, and the area that you want to paint will be exposed. And you're ready to rock and roll. Everything's all taped up. It's really pretty simple. That's a pro tip, by the way. That's the way they do it at real body shops. At least every one I ever worked at. Yeah, there. So anyhow, I'm gonna pause again, finish cutting and taping this, and then I'll show you what I did with the roof and explain what I did and why. And then pause it again and put the primer on. And I'll try and pause between steps so you can, see the natural progression of things. So anyhow, be back. Okay, Houston, we have a problem, but I'm gonna soldier on anyhow. So first I'll show you the roof and tell you what I did. Okay, so this is the roof. I didn't have any 180, which is what I would have preferred. I had 150, which is not really that much difference. So I went over the whole thing with 150, and I couldn't find any 220. So I have the red Scotch-Brite pads. It's an automotive pad. They are supposedly equivalent and I can't remember for sure, maybe one of you guys can drop a comment, 220 or 320. Even 220 for what I'm doing is fine. 320 would be better, but I went over it with a red Scotch Brite regardless, and then wiped it down with the wax and grease. And then you can see how I cut the roof out after I dropped the plastic on. So, but the problem I have, all the body supplies and paint supplies we have here right now, we are out of mixing cups, which have the mixing scales on the side for the different paints. And most of the paints, automotive paints anyhow, tell you what the ratios are. 4 to 3 to 1, 4 to 2 to 1, whatever. So this is Rust-Oleum, it's not rocket science. So I'm going to mix the primer about 3 to 1 as best I can, because I don't have a mixing cup. All I have to mix in is one of these, and this is a liner for an what do you call it? Gravity feed, HVLP gun, which is but it's a disposable liner. You strain your paint into this, put it inside there's a special type of gun that takes a disposable cartridge for your paint storage while you're spraying. Makes it nicer. There's very little cleanup. Run a little thinner through the gun, and you're ready to go for the next color, whatever, next coat. So next batch. So mine doesn't take a liner, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to use this to mix it in. Best guess. And I'm going to use what I have. The other challenge I have. There's two remaining challenges. Number 2 would be the Rust-Oleum calls for mineral spirits, and I think I did this last time. I used acetone instead of mineral spirits, and it actually dried. And I was in the warmer weather when I painted the hood and the fender and the cowl and whatnot, but it dried pretty good. By the end of the day, it was ready to go back together. When I did the aerosol cans on the tailgate here and on this fender, it took a while to dry. So anyhow, I'm also mixing hardener in this. It's an enamel hardener, and it's weird because Rust-Oleum, I haven't been able to find a Rust-Oleum enamel hardener for their products, but the Valspar works with it, which is enamel hardener. Woohoo! So mix a little bit of that in, and again, since I don't have a measured mixing cup to mix things in, I'm going to be guessing at the ratios as best I can. The good news is, to a point, you can't put too much hardener in. So if I get close, I'll be good. And then the other good news is I can walk back over to my apartment if this does not finish up by the end of the day, if it doesn't flip by the end of the day. And the other challenge is this. I am only semi-tall. I'm about 5'10". Not as tall as once I was. It happens with age, they say. So the good news on that front is this stuff flashes off very slowly. So I'll be able to move this around, and as I'm spraying, and my edges will melt in, and I'll be good. I'm not overly concerned. And once the primer flashes off, as soon as it flashes off, I'll give it probably another half hour after it flashes off, and then I'll come back. I'm not sanding between I'm actually using this primer as more like a primer sealer, just to make a nice even white background. And because I'll be using the hardener in the white, as well as the yellow top coat. I had real good luck with it on the hood and the pieces I painted already on the front with the Rust-Oleum out of the can. It dried up beautiful. Um, like I said, this is not going to SEMA. It's my everyday driver, and I just want it all yellow. I'm as I mentioned, I'm also AR, so at some point I may pull off that fender and this tailgate and repaint them to match the rest of it. So anyhow, I'm gonna pause, get the primer on, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how the primer turned out. One thing I am going to do with the primer, because I don't know what is up there for paints. I don't know how much of that is factory paint, how much somebody might have done after the fact, down the road from the factory, whatever. So my first coat of primer is going to be a really light, almost like a spot coat, just to make sure. The object is with a spot coat is you want it to flash off really fast and seal what's underneath. And I'll do another light flash coat and let that flash off, and then hopefully I can put a heavier coat on and then another heavier coat, and I'll be ready for the yellow, and we won't get any lifting. So that's my hope. Yep, be back after it's white. Okay, so I got they call it a tack coat. You put it on really dry, and that avoids like orange peel, not orange peel, but it avoids like crinkling, the paint underneath reacting. And you just put it on really dry. You also use the same technique if you're experiencing fisheye, which means you have silicone in it. So I don't know how much you can see of this corner, but I autographed it somehow or other. No matter how careful I was, I got dragged the hose across it. So I loaded that up a little bit there. I don't seem to be having any adverse reactions with the primer, so I may just, in the next coat, just crank up the flow on the gun and layer down. Just do 2 more. I don't know if I'll have enough paint mixed. I'm probably going to end up mixing more to cover this, which is good. I mean, this gives me a good baseline with the yellow, how much yellow I need to mix up. So I think I got the ratios pretty good on this. And if I remember right, the reason I went with acetone as opposed to mineral spirits, the acetone has a better, for lack of a better term, it's a little bit faster. It evaporates, it flashes off faster than the mineral spirits. So sounds like I may have company out there. So anyhow, gonna pause it, let this flash off for a couple minutes, get a drink of water, and I'm gonna maybe mix up some more and dump it on. We'll see. Back in a flash. Alright, I'm going to kill the fan in a second here. I just wanted to assure you guys, before you ask, yes I am. I am wearing PPE, personal protection equipment. So let me kill the fan. I did not have as much of this primer. Why am I pointing at the wall? I did not have as much of this primer as I thought I did. I mean, I have a whole can that's unopened. I had about half-ish a can. And just, FYI, I think I know why they sell it in quarts, because once you open that can, the shelf life is very short. I did hood stuff in August. This is February, end of February. And the 1 can of yellow that I used on the hood and this fender and the cowl. Let's try this again. The hood, this fender, the cowl, this headlight bezel, all the stuff here that I painted. Okay, not cowl, header panel, sorry. That I painted back in August. I used, I don't know, maybe a third of a can. and when I opened it up, it was pudding. So this is a dump coat. I put it on, in multiple stages, but I put it down fairly heavy. It does look like I might get a little bit of lifting on the edges. We'll see. I don't know if you can see it in there. I can't tell from this. I smoothed out the edges as best I could. This is the roof, and it's a lifted Jeep, so the only people that are going to see it is the Airborne Highway Patrol as they're chasing me down the road at 150 miles an hour. So anyhow, trying to get plenty in this gap here between the rain, the what do you call this? The drip rail, rain gutter. Yeah, and make sure that's full. The pieces I taped over the rain gutter trim. It's black. It's not chrome. Some of these Jeeps, this is a chrome piece of trim. I'm not going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs on that. I'm actually I think that'll be a nice accent once I get the rest of the yellow on the Jeep. If I don't like it, I can always pull it off and paint it, or that little strip like that, I could probably rattle can it. So anyhow, gonna let this flash off, and then as long as it's flashed off, even if it's tacky, I can spray the yellow on it. I do have another can of yellow and a full can of yellow, and it's not like this stuff is horribly expensive. It's like $8 for a quart can of this stuff, and it's even cheaper if you buy it by the gallon, which I'm glad I didn't, because I'd have opened a gallon and then I'd be throwing away the rest of it. So the quart cans are the ideal way to go for this if you're not painting it all in one day. If you're going to paint your vehicle with Rust-Oleum all in one day, get a gallon. If you're not going to paint it all in one day, like me, I'm going in stages as I can afford to be without the vehicle. Get it in quarts. So anyhow, the $15 Harbor Freight gun, which is actually the first time I'm using that gun. I had bought it before I started this, but I didn't actually use it when I painted the hood and the other. There's a bunch of them laying around here, and I just used one that was already open rather than breaking a brand new gun. I did use it this time, brand new gun, and it's doing a great job. I don't see any unevenness. I know I have to get down between each quarter as I'm spraying this, but the overlap is melting in fine. Like I said, this stuff doesn't flash off like an automotive base coat will. Automotive base coat, well, you can tack it between, once you get the base coat on with an automotive grade paint, you can go over it with a tack cloth, and any overspray that dries on top, the tack cloth will remove, and you'll have a nice even coat of whatever your color is. So anyhow, pause for now, be back when it flashes. Okay, I just did this quick. I wanted to show you, yellow is a very low pigment paint. When I worked up at the garage at Summit, the boss bought his wife a bright yellow Mustang, and something happened and we had to put a front bumper cover on it, and the bumper cover came in, it was black, and they tried to paint yellow over the black bumper cover, and it took so much paint. This is one light coat of yellow over white, and it looks, I think I mixed too much paint. I mixed I mixed a pint of paint to do this roof. I think I'm going to put it all on anyhow, just so I have plenty up here. This is a high wear area. When I'm kayaking and whatnot, you can see the holes. This has a factory roof rack on it. I'm going to have to spruce that up before I throw it on top of this pretty yellow roof. But anyhow, I just wanted to show you that quick. Oh, fell off the stool. Going to get back to paint, be back. Okay, so I just did 2 coats back to back. The first coat, second coat. I finished the one I showed you where I started. I don't know. There's some dirt in it, and you can see some edges where things weren't sanded out quite perfect. But overall, it's yellow, and it looks, to me, it looks good. I have a little over half a cup in my gun left, and I'm gonna back it down a little bit, reduce how much is coming out, and see if I can get another full coat on this, and then she'll be done. Then I'm gonna pull the plastic off, and we'll see how she looks. I don't know. In case somebody asks, I don't know why you would, but you never know. YouTube, you never know. People are people. But why did I go to the trouble of taping this up? If it's just a Rust-Oleum paint job and the rest of it's going to get yellow, blah, 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 blah. Well, as I said, I'm OCD, anal retentive. Little stuff like that bothers me. I just like things to be neat. So if it's not ready for black, I'm not going to overspray white and yellow on it and make it look like a hillbilly paint job any more than it already does. Thank you. Sorry, beat you to it. So anyhow, this color it's hard to tell. I won't know till I get to the door on the other side, but this color looks to be a really good match for this color. I don't know, you can't tell with the plastic on. We'll see when I pull the plastic off. So I'm gonna go get a drink of water, let this flash for just a few minutes, and then I'm gonna come and dump the rest of it. I may just mix a little more thinner in it, make it flash a little faster. I think I'll do that. I'll mix a little more thinner into what's in the cup. So anyhow, be back when it's, next time you see it, the plastic will be off. All right, last section, ladies and germs. All untaped, unmasked. I think it looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. You're not happy with it, but I'm happy with it. I gotta tuck that gasket back in. I asked the guy when he put the new windshield in I don't know when it was, May, June, whenever, if could leave the gasket off, but he seemed to think it was better to put the windshield in with the gasket. I'm going to leave that off of there because the paint's not dry yet. My hands got covered in yellow. Sorry, keep the camera on the topic at hand. So anyhow, looks good. Getting ready to back it out. That'll be fun. It was a very tight squeeze getting it in here, and now I got to do it backwards. So